Shimming is another method of bypassing a lock. The idea is to insert some sort of object into the locking mechanism and move the locking bolt, or whatever is holding the shackle inside the lock, out of the way. Since the mechanisms vary greatly, there is no standard method for shimming a lock. Shimming can also be effective on a wide variety of padlocks. Padlocks usually work by having a spring-loaded locking bolt fit into a notch in the shackle in order to hold it inside the lock. Often the locking bolt will have an angled top, which allows the shackle to be closed without unlocking the lock. This means that the locking bolt must be spring-loaded. So, if you can fit a very thin, strong object into the lock parallel to the shackle, you can sometimes slide the locking bolt out of the way and spring the shackle open. This requires that the lock's hole for the shackle is large enough to also allow for the shimming tool to fit inside. This method will also work for warded padlocks. The actual lock type is almost irrelevant. Padlock shims are often sold that are specifically made to help you deal with padlocks with less hassle. They are made of thin yet strong material that can be inserted into the padlock and then rotated to release the latch. They are often tapered to make them much easier with which to work. Shimming is also very effective on common doorknobs. The latch is the portion of the locking bolt mechanism that sticks out of the door into the door jamb and holds the door shut. One side of the latch is angled so that the door can be closed without turning the handle. This is because it is spring-loaded. All you need to do is to take a tool and stick it in the gap between the door jamb and the door. You may have heard about credit cards being used for this. Try not to break your card if you attempt to use it for this purpose. Most latches will have springs that are too strong and will require a stronger, different shaped, or better tool for this purpose. Make contact with the bolt and work it back into the door, and the door will open. Some door jambs are better than others at blocking access to the door's latch. Many sophisticated doorknob assemblies used in commercial applications are not susceptible to this. They have additional protrusions that stick out of the door. This anti-pick latch is pushed into the door when the door is closed. The mechanism then mechanically prevents the main latch from being pushed back into the door without opening the lock. Sometimes you don't have to pick the lock at all in order to open it. You can merely bypass it. This is called bypass picking. It requires that the lock allows for it. Therefore, this method only works on lighter security locks that have an exposed locking bolt in the rear of the keyway or elsewhere. Many desks, cabinets, and a few padlocks are like this. The concept is simple. Insert your bypass pick all the way into the lock and ignore the pins or wafers completely. Attempt to move the locking bolt manually with your tool. Whatever the lock would have done if unlocked, you should try to do the same thing to the bolt. You may be able to move it out of the shackle or slot and allow the lock to open. It is a simple concept when you are lucky enough to have a lock that allows this.